Hello, my name is Hannah Holzer, and today we will be discussing antibiotics in the dairy industry. So, to begin this presentation, we have to understand what's going on. So, in today's day and age, we all know that antibiotics can cause antibiotic resistant bacteria, diseases, and it can leave residue in animal products. So, as we see this, a lot of people get wary of what's actually going on. So it is believed today that the use of antibiotics in the dairy industry actually does promote health and welfare of animals, which a lot of people are uneducated about. And we actually have residue detection, which began in the 1940s when antimicrobial products were introduced to the food animal. So a lot of people don't really understand the difference between animal welfare and animal rights. So animal rights is more extreme than most people realize. Animal rights groups don't want animals to be used for food. They don't want animals to be used for any sort of product. They don't want animals to be owned. They think that animals should be free and basically what we would consider as feral. On the other side, animal welfare is basically how animals are coping with their environment. So the AVMA basically states that for an animal to have good welfare, they need to have an appropriate shelter, they need to have veterinary assistance and good health, and they need to be fed properly and have good nutrition. So this is basically what we want is good animal welfare. So the residue is what has most of the population uneasy about what's going on. So the FDA actually has a Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which basically tests for residue. And above a certain limit, which is very low, you are actually not complying with the law. And the FDA has actually come out in statements saying that there are very minimal violations, and for those violations, they are actually trying to have a wider test for all antibiotics to decrease the number of violations. So the residue detection, as I said, began right after the antimicrobials were introduced to the food animal production. So it's not as big. It is a big deal, but people need to worry less about that than they think. So this topic is especially important to me because of how widely misunderstood it is. Because people could very easily look it up and find a lot of different articles. And if they were to check their sources, they would know what's right versus wrong. And because of the social media and like groups like PETA, the dairy industry is struggling because people are uneducated, because our prices have been fluctuating so rapidly, and it's just really hard to watch as somebody who loves the dairy industry. I'm actually going to vet school in the fall to hopefully become a dairy veterinarian and enter the dairy industry to help educate people and to ensure the food safety of these animals, to ensure that they're healthy, that we have proper withdrawal times. This is something I want to continue doing and educating people about. So this is very important to me. So we have seen a lot of resistance increasing in the past 2 decades because of the food agriculture business. So this is really important because it could impact treatment of diseases affecting the human population, and because With the more resistance we have, the more residue that might be found in human food, which decreases our food safety. So one of the biggest issues that is treated with antibiotics is mastitis. And mastitis is something that affects a lot of species, from sheep, goats, cows, and even humans, which a lot of people don't know. So mastitis is actually inflammation of the teat. So when this happens in dairy cows, we first identify mastitis through multiple ways, whether it be just seeing little chunks and flecks of milk that shouldn't be there, or doing a chemical test that appears a certain color when there's mastitis present. So once this cow is diagnosed, we isolate her to the dump herd, which means that we're not going to use her milk for production, and it is not going to be used at all going towards human consumption. Usually, at least at the UGA dairy, it is disposed of. Then, after she's isolated, we begin treatment. So first we strip, which means empty, the infected teats, and we treat her. Treatment consists of a syringe full of a specific dosage of antibiotics, which we massage into the teat, and then we seal it, so that way it doesn't just come out. I've seen this to be very successful at the UGA dairy. And then we need to milk the remaining teats, because she is still producing, so it is important for her to be emptied and continue producing and hopefully not spread this mastitis to the other teats. So hopefully she will become healthy after a couple treatments, and after the last treatment we will wait the proper amount of time, which is called a withdrawal time, which is basically after the last treatment, that's how many days it'll take for there to be no more antibiotics in her system. She will become a healthy cow with no residue. So after that withdrawal time, we actually check for the residue. And once we have a reading that is very low under the FDA's proper reading, or no residue, we will return that cow back to the healthy herd. So overall, we have seen that the use of antibiotics is essential for animal welfare, food quality, and food quantity. If we stop using antibiotics, welfare will decrease, which means that we won't have the quantity or the quality of milk, which will increase price for consumers and producers, which is not something that we really want to happen. So what's next? So we want to reduce the use of antibiotics to reduce the resistance. So using immunomodulators, we have seen the reduction of the use of antibiotics through reduction of disease. And it's been seen in the Nordic region. There's been studies of selective breeding. So basically, these studies select cows to breed based on disease resistance, mastitis resistance, and breeding values. So hopefully that is something that will be widespread soon. And that would be great to have more healthy cows and reduced antibiotic use. Thank you.